Not bad for a 74-year-old. Simon Phoenix knows he's got some competition. He finally matched his meat. You really licked his ass.
That's met his match and kicked his ass.
Met his match and kicked his ass. Met his match and kicked his ass. Oh, Huxley, never change.
I love how they fucked up so many good quotes.
I think I did a good job. I didn't laugh. I wanted to.
I had that soundbite in the 90s. That's how good it was. Like I've had that one hanging around for decades.
Okay, so greetings and salutations. Be well.
That's a big ask for someone like me, you know.
I am your host, Robert.
This is Captain Chaos, Seashell Chaos.
Seashell Chaos, yes. He's if you want to know how the seashells work, ask him.
Yes.
I still don't know. I'll just swear a few times because I'm Australian, and then I'll take the paper into the bathroom.
You gotta pull your pants out, bend over in front of me, and I'll take care of the rest.
Oh,
we're not. No, look, we're not going back to that quote. No, that's just not happening. I'm Ray, the poor Australian who's suffering from these two already.
I'm so sorry. You're here with two Florida men.
I know, and the seashell chaos that will continue through the entire episode. I'm sure. What have you guys been watching in sci-fi recently? Let's get off this seashell thing for a minute.
I go first.
Okay. Star Trek, right? Okay, so Chaos, what have you
been? Deep Space Nine, Lower Decks, and Upload. And I'm skipping straight.
What? Something that's not Star Trek? Really?
For if you're new to this show, we actually cover Upload in one of our previous episodes. So go ahead and go through our back catalog and listen to that episode so you get our thoughts on it. But it's such a great show, and I was waiting so long for season 3, and it's not disappointing. So far, it's amazing. And I don't know, we should cover season 2 in the show again.
Mm-hmm.
I should watch season 1. I should watch something to do with sci-fi. I watch too much anime. It's
you guys can skip me. I haven't been watching sci-fi this week, so what have you been watching, Ray?
Anime? What a shock!
Me too.
I've infected you.
Yep.
It's just the last. Well, no, that way. The last bastion over here that we've got to break the cycle of sci-fi. If it wasn't for you, this segment wouldn't exist.
Wait till they put some anime of Star Trek.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Anime?
Well, that's called Lower Decks, isn't it?
Lower Decks, man.
That's not anime, bro. That's animation.
Yeah, okay.
Are you one of those that say that cartoons are anime and animes are for kids?
No, anime are for kids.
Well, cartoons are for kids, and anime is more adult, and Lower Decks fits into the second category. So I would call it anime.
Let me explain why anime is for kids, right? Anime is for kids that never grew up.
Anime is for kids that have pubic hair.
Sounds fair. I'll pay that one.
Okay. So with that, should we move on to our next segment?
Yeah, we've already gone to the pubic hair. Let's move on.
Shout outs.
And for these shout outs, first I'm gonna divide it in 2 sections. First, for our Discord new members, Nate, Sci-Fi Throwdown, Sarah J, and Star Jammer 117. Thank you for joining the party. Discord, the party is lit, so if you don't want to miss out, go and check out in our main link on bio and join the fun, man. It's always fun conversation there, having it with us, with all our hosts and our followers.
I want to before you move on, I want to add to that. The Discord is definitely lit, so you guys should join in. But I just want to mention that Sci-Fi Throwdown, it's a very interesting podcast. And not sure if you guys were aware of that, but they cover books, sci-fi
Oh,
books.
nice. I'm new
So
to them.
yep, I listened to a couple of episodes, and I'm working on something that we might have them come on our show, and we can have them as guests. So just
Awesome.
here, let you guys on that little piece of information.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
And moving on to our Twitter followers, we got the podcast that wouldn't die. You can find their profile in T Podcast TW Die. Go and check them out. Thanks for the shout outs. Glad you enjoyed the podcast, guys. Awesome podcast. So pause right now and go and give them a listen. They're awesome, man. And next, we got MonoRants, the boys.
Yeah.
Go and check them out also in Twitter. You can find it by just checking out a MonoRants. They're awesome podcasts, and I enjoy listening to them all the time. So go and check them out. You can find both of them, their link on the bio, and you can listen to them in your favorite platform. And that's all for today's shout outs.
Awesome. Yeah, that's such a great podcast, and monoruns have been on our show before, so
Mm-hmm.
really really cool. Okay, so I guess we could go into the next segment.
The Alita
Yeah.
Army News.
It always concerns me when you do that.
Nice.
So let me just pull that up. Where's it gone? There. I got too many tabs open already, and it's only the start of the show. This is going to get crazy. So episode 186 was this week. We were talking about Methuselization, obviously taken from Methuselah, who was the oldest person in the Hebrew Bible. Should it be openly available? And if not, who should get it and why? Now, it was a pretty spicy discussion going back and forth on what people thought. We covered some history from the source material, the manga Gumu, known as Battle Angel Alita in the West. And it's really interesting. I mean, if you want to follow a discussion that we had about stopping aging and living for as long as you can before an accident takes you out, you could listen to the last episode of season 1, which was Darling in the Franxx, because basically the population of the Earth had gone through the equivalent of Methuselization, and it had changed pretty much everything about society. Because once you take out the cycle of life and death, things stop feeling like they're changing. So yeah, it has a pretty big effect on the psyche and the cycle of life. The value of life goes down, as in, children are no longer required. So people who do have children don't necessarily value them because they're going to live forever anyway. So yeah, it's a bit concerning. We had an interesting discussion. So check that one out. It's over on the Alita Army channel on YouTube. Radio Chaos episode 186. We also had some interesting news tidbits. Now there has been reports for the last couple of months with various news outlets saying, the Alita sequel has been confirmed. It has not. It's been confirmed that James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez are working on it. What that means is that they're most likely preparing a proposal to go to Disney to try and get a sequel greenlit. And of course, the proposal needs to be of a particular quality that will get them the money they need to do a good job. This was the hassle when Robert Rodriguez took it over from James Cameron, because Cameron had to shelve because of the Avatar sequels. But Robert Rodriguez took it over, and Fox wouldn't give them the $250 million that they wanted. They'd only give them $200 million, which then meant that they had to cut it down by half an hour. So if you've watched Alita Battle Angel, if you haven't, why haven't you? It's an awesome cyberpunk futuristic movie. It feels a little bit rushed in places, and that's because they had to cut stuff out, unfortunately. And if you want to know the backstory of some of the secondary characters like Hugo or Makaku, you need to actually read the novelization and the prequel novel to get all that, because it just wasn't room for it in the movie, because there's so much awesome stuff about Alita that they crammed as much as they could into 2 hours and really needed at least another hour, I thought. But, only Avatar gets 3 hours because it's Avatar. But, hopefully they will have something ready that blows the socks off of the Disney execs with the purse strings, and we will hear a green light announcement sometime in the next few weeks if that pesky strike ends. Hopefully it will end, because if it doesn't end, then they were saying it will probably go until after New Year's. So hopefully the writer strike will end with a satisfactory result for the writers, and then they'll get back to making movies for us.
Yeah,
because we like to watch movies.
And it's only fair. So.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's bad enough that AI is, writing things that, there's a lot of very average movies written out there. I think that sometimes the AI can do a slightly better job, but it's all derivative when the AI does it, because it can't come up with anything new. So we still needs the peeps, or we're going to have a million lookalike reboots.
I agree.
So go writers. Let's hopefully get you what you need, and then move on and have some new awesome movies like Alita sequels.
Go ChatGPT.
You're a bad man.
Okay, so I think we're ready for this show.
Oh no, I'm not. I know that we're going to be talking about seashells any minute now. So.
Ray, haven't met my mate.
Yeah.
So before we,
Robert, are you gonna lick my ass?
Before we start, pause us or take us in your car. You can listen to this podcast on your car. Drive all the way to Taco Bell.
Don't forget, it's a gala place, so you gotta go in bow tie,
Yes, please.
tuxedo. You gotta go in tuxedo to Taco Bell.
And you get a milkshake in a cocktail shaker.
Pick up your food, whatever that might be. I just had some Supreme, and of course,
5-layer burritos.
we're not sponsored, but hey, we're open to it. I love Taco Bell, and then bring it back home. Watch the movie, eating your favorite Taco Bell, and then
Later on, enjoy the seashells when you're exiting Taco Bell.
yes, because you're gonna need it. And then come back and unpause us and enjoy the show. So just want to make sure there, you go through the steps, because the steps are necessary. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
I think there might be one or two Taco Bells in Sydney, but there's certainly none near me. It's not a big thing in Australia. We have a lot of kebab shops. Like individual ones, not chain restaurants.
So you couldn't Grubhub it, right? That could be expensive, right?
Yeah, so there's 3 Taco Bells in Sydney. Just 3 for a massive city. So
nice. So I guess before we start, we have something important
Do we have a plug?
that occasionally
we do.
forgetting, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes it gets interrupted, and sometimes it's not.
Would you like me to cover the plot?
Yes, please.
Sure. So, in the far future of 1996, this. Well, look, this movie came out in 1993. Okay, give them a break. And a couple of weeks ago, it turned 30. So this movie is old enough to have had kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
hopefully not. Not like it was portrayed in the movie, hopefully.
Yeah, no,
Hopefully.
and not Teen Pregnancies either. So there you go. But yeah, so in
I don't feel
1996,
like a rat burger, man.
so, it's the best burger he's had in 30 years. That's because he's been frozen.
Yep.
In 1996, psychopathic career criminal Simon Phoenix kidnaps a busload of hostages and takes refuge in an abandoned building. Well, I mean, the opening scene of this movie is going from the back over the top of the iconic Hollywood sign, but it's on fire. and Hollywood's on fire, and everything looks like a waste dump, or piled up car trashed cars and
Yep.
and barbed wire and things burning and some.
Oh, I gotta talk about that scene before you continue.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember around that time, in 1990, well, in the early 90s, right? Well, the opening scene for this film featured the actual demolition of one of the buildings of a no longer operative Belknap hardware and manufacturing company in Louisiana, Kentucky. And kind of like the reason why I kind of remember that is because I used to watch MTV, and they held a movie tie-in contest where the winner actually gets to press that button to
Oh wow!
to
To
do
blow the building up.
to blow the building up, and that's the building that comes up in this in the first 5 minutes of this film. So I don't know if you ever watch MTV, but yeah.
So Demolition Man actually demoed a building.
Yep. And the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and the future. Yeah, of course. Very important to blow the future up. So yeah, so psychopathic killer Simon Phoenix in abandoned buildings, poses with busload of kidnapped people. LAPD Sergeant John Spartan, nicknamed the Demolition Man for his large amounts of collateral damage he often causes in apprehending suspects, mounts an unauthorized assault to capture Phoenix from an LAPD Chinook helicopter, which I thought was interesting. There was quite a few things in this movie that, if you think about it with any semblance of logic, you sort of go, huh? But just let it slide because it's an action movie.
It's fun. Yeah.
Just let it slide. When the thermal scan of the area reveals no trace of the hostages, he raids the building and confronts Phoenix, who sets off explosives to destroy it. That scene where he had the blowtorch above the petrol, that would have exploded because petrol is highly volatile and it vaporizes, and it's actually the vapor that burns, not the petrol. So physics says no, you can't hold a blowtorch over petrol and not have it go up. It's not how it works. But anyway, and I have the hashtag ready. Wait for it to load. There we go.
Nice.
That's not how it works. But anyway, moving on. The hostages' corpses are later found in the rubble, and Phoenix claims a Spartan knew about them and attacked anyway. Both men are sentenced to lengthy terms in the city's new California Cryo Penitentiary, a prison in which convicts are cryogenically frozen and exposed to subliminal rehabilitation techniques. In 2032, they jumped a bit forward into the future. In 2032, which is actually in our future, thank God, because I don't want to live in that one. The city of San Angeles, megalopolis formed from the merger of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Santa Barbara, is a seemingly peaceful utopia designed and run by Dr. Raymond Cocteau. Phoenix is thawed for a parole hearing and escapes from the cryo prison by saying a secret password without knowing how he learned it. He subsequently murders his guards and the warden of the prison, and makes his way into the city, where he easily overpowers and kills several police officers who have never had to deal with violent crime. Lieutenant Linnea Huxley, an idealistic officer who is fascinated with the 20th century culture, learns about Spartan's career from veteran officer Zachary Lamb, who suggests he's the best chance to stop Phoenix. So should enlist the officer with the experience and mindset needed to anticipate his actions. Huxley persuades her superiors to parole Spartan and reinstate him to active duty. Spartan finds life in San Angeles to be sterile and oppressive, since all types of behavior deemed immoral and unhealthy, such as sports, alcohol, swearing, eating meat, and having sex, have all been declared illegal. Boy, what do you do for fun? There's no fun anymore.
Nope.
Conversely, many members of the police department and the public view Spartan as a savage and uncivilized, while Huxley idolizes him. Anticipating that Phoenix will attempt to secure firearms, Spartan has Huxley lead him to the museum and finds Phoenix looting an exhibit of weapons. To Spartan's surprise, Phoenix is even deadlier than before. Phoenix escapes and holds Cocktail at gunpoint, but is unable to kill him, as Cocktail has implanted a command in his rehabilitation program to prevent him from doing so. Cocktail instead orders Phoenix to kill Edgar Friendly, the leader of a resistance group called the Scraps, who refuse to conform to Cocktail's moral ideals and who live in the underground ruins of old Los Angeles. Spartan and Huxley witness this exchange on security cameras and review the cryo prison records. They discover that Phoenix's rehabilitation program was tailored by Cocktail to make him even more dangerous than he was in 1996. Yes, that's right. Movie was 93, set in 96, and then 2032. Including martial arts, computer hacking, knowledge of torture techniques, and murderous impulses. By contrast, Spartan's program taught him how to knit and sew. And he actually knits Huxley a jumper in apology for messing up their night of sexual intercourse, which involved putting on headsets and having lewd thoughts beamed into their heads.
You know, my wife actually, about the knitting, she was laughing when let me explain. At one scene, you see him getting the ball of
Yarn.
ready to knit, and then in the next scene, you see him how he's bringing that sweater to Huxley, and she's like, "Yeah, right. All that came from that single ball."
Yep.
Well, that was the first one he found. Maybe there was more.
Oh, joy. If you're not watching the YouTube channel. Oh my God. Yes, I agree.
You get what I mean?
Yes, 100%. But you know who doesn't understand what we're talking about?
The listeners.
The listeners. So if you want to know what we're talking about, in a month's time from you listening to us, the video will be released on our YouTube channel. So go into your YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell so you know when that comes out, and then watch this episode on YouTube.
And you will get extra features.
Nice.
Okay. Now, God, this is a wall of text. I got to find out where I was. Yes. By contrast, Spartan's program taught him how to knit and sew. As the pair deduce that Friendly is being targeted for murder, Phoenix persuades Cocktail to release additional cryo prisoners from his gang and leads them underground to pursue Friendly. Having previously encountered the Scraps during the food raid at a restaurant, not any restaurant, it was Taco Bell.
Oh, and before you continue, I just gotta say that in some non-American countries where this film was shown, since Taco Bell wasn't that famous at that time, they actually replaced it with Pizza Hut.
Ha.
So I am wondering, if you're from a foreign country and you've seen this film and it has Pizza Hut instead of Taco Bell, please send us a screenshot. I couldn't find one, but it's I find that to be so interesting.
Localization. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of what they did with the original Pacific Rim. They had one section of the movie where they'd have mecha, for a better use of a better term, from the local area inserted into the movie for that area. So there was actually an Australian one where they had an Australian mecha in that section just to sort of localize it. So it's not the only instance of localization like that.
The Mech Aussie.
That's right. I can't remember what it was. I'd have to Google it to look it up.
It was a metallic. Sorry, I had to.
It was a giant mechanized saltwater crocodile. That would kill anything.
That would be awesome. I think
Hopping.
I prefer it over a kangaroo.
Oh yeah, those things are nasty. So Spartan and Huxley venture underground to save Friendly from an assassination attempt by Phoenix. Phoenix taunts Spartan with the revelation that he had framed Spartan for the deaths of the 1996 hostages who were already dead before the building exploded, which is why they couldn't find any heat signatures from them. Phoenix escapes the Phoenix escapes to the cryo prison. That makes much more sense. And Spartan borrows weapons from the scraps to pursue him. Unable to harm Cocktail, Phoenix has a gang member kill him instead and begins thawing out the cryo prison's most dangerous convicts, planning to, take over and turn San Angeles into hell on earth. Spartan incapacitates Huxley for her safety and fights Phoenix, breaking a vial of his cryogenic chemical that rapidly freezes Phoenix's body solid. Spartan kicks his head off, shattering it, and escapes as the uncontrolled quick freezing effect triggers an explosion that destroys the cryo prison. Demolition Man strikes again. The police fear that the loss of Cocktail and the cryo prison will end society as they know it, but Spartan suggests that they and the scraps cooperate and combine their best aspects in order of order and personal freedom. He kisses Huxley and they leave together. Roll credits.
Nice.
And that is Demolition Man. And I got to say that it's a movie that is sort of schizophrenic in that it's a silly action movie, but it actually shows a version of the future, which, isn't that far off given, the PC trends that we're all forced to labor under these days.
Yeah. I was wondering, I'm going to go ahead and screen share an image. And I'm wondering if you guys are familiar with, what the heck? Sorry. I'm
That
using
would be the wrong screen. And it's
okay.
That's not
So,
working.
Never mind that. So I'm not going to show it. So
Do you want to send me the link through private chat and I'll throw it up?
Let's see. I don't even have a link. It's just an image that I found. So basically what it is, if you look towards the end, and let me see if I can find that image. I honestly did not know that Jack Black was in this film.
Really?
I did not know. And if you start thinking about it, you are not going to remember where, because, he is a very unique person. So it would be difficult not to notice him. But yeah, if you don't point it out to me, I would never have known that he was there. I am going to find the image real quick.
I've got it. Although it's tiny. There we go. And then I shared that. And then I go to here and then I click that and I click that. Yay. There he is.
Holy
He-
shit! Yes, it's him.
He's awfully young. And it's only like a few like seconds exposure in the film, but it just took me by surprise.
Nice.
And he's credited as Wasteland Scrap number 2.
Uh, it- this was definitely one of his early roles. And he had no script on it, obviously, and that's what it plays. It plays more into the fact that we don't recognize him. You know, he's always like in. Basically, if you have listened to our previous episode, he's a mob character with a face.
So you can see his pic. Yeah, that didn't work, did it? There we go. I made him a bit bigger.
Yeah, so if you're watching our YouTube channel, you could actually see that. If not, very easy for all of you out there who are listening to us first. All you gotta do is go into Google and type in Demolition Man and Jack Black and click on images, and you'll see tons of images that come up. But he is very, very young. Did you guys knew that? I mean,
No,
I feel like I'm a newbie, and I've seen this movie a lot.
I was today years old when I found that out.
How about you, Gio?
Oh, it scared me completely.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't feel alone. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You are not alone.
Oh God, here we go.
And Chaos. Yeah. Chaos sings, you know, just reach out if you want to go into release an album.
I don't mind him singing. It's his choice of song that's concerning me.
Hey, I'm a award-winning nominee of Geo Got Talent on the bathroom.
That's what she said.
This film, I think I should say this before we continue. The original opening scene, or the beginning of the film, I should say, was scheduled to be when Spartan got defrozen, and they're telling him that he needs to apprehend Phoenix, and the writers felt that it would be, what is the word they put it, oh yeah, I found the phrase. They put it this way, that says, if you don't know Kansas, then us isn't all that special. So they felt like that would be completely out of context and you wouldn't feel the what they are trying to portray. So they actually rewrote the film to include the beginnings that we saw. So now we have a context of where, not only where Spartan and Phoenix come from, but their relationship. So what do you guys, I don't know if you guys knew this, and if you didn't, the second question is, did you feel that this film would have, do you think the writers were right? Do you feel the film would have been a complete different film if they wouldn't not written and recorded the beginning of the film as it is today?
I think it was the right way to do it.
Me too.
I mean, you look at all good storytelling, you've got to, land the characters in somewhere that's recognizable and understandable for the audience to ground the character. And once you understand where that character comes from, then you move them to the place that the main story is going to take place. And of course, Snipes comes from the same era. So having them go up against each other at the very beginning, and then it all go to hell and then both ending up frozen, it makes a whole lot more sense than starting the movie at the thaw out stage.
Yep, I agree. It gives you some backstory to understand the context of the present.
But I mean, starting out by thawing the guy and then running into the backstory, it just would have felt a little bit cart before horse.
Yep,
So I think the way they did it was the right way to go.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm glad they caught it because if I'm not mistaken, this was done after they started. I think it was. Let me see. It was uncredited rewrites on the script. Oh, it's a continuing rewrites. It's not just one.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, I'm glad they did that because this is definitely an iconic movie. It would have been completely different if it was a complete different scene. Okay, so we're in the stage, the stage of the podcast where we ask our very first question. So, how old were you when you watched this film, and what was your first impression on the film? Should I go first? Who wants to go first?
why don't we have Gio go first for a change? Because he usually goes last because he's the youngest. But give him a go first.
Well, I watched this movie after it came out, maybe like 1999, and it was a fun watch. It was packed with action. There's a lot of jokes that went over my head when I was a kid, but Snipe always is a good actor for great action scenes. To be honest, I don't know if you guys know that he's actually a black belt, and you can see his great choreography in most of his movies when it comes to fighting scenes. He actually depicts it perfectly.
It's a good thing you mentioned that because I read that if you watch the film where he's doing his, martial arts moves,
Hmm.
they kind of look a little hokey, slightly.
Karate.
And here's the reason why, right? When they started filming, and this is something I did not know, when they started filming, since he is a master at what he does,
Hmm.
movement were too fast for the camera. When they shot it, it was just blur, and it didn't look good on film. So what they asked him to do is to slow down his movements so they can shoot it. And that's why, since he's doing something slower, it felt weird because he's not used to doing this that way. So that's why it looked a little
He did karate tai chi.
it kind of
I'm sorry, our cameras are so shit that they can't capture your speed. Please slow down.
Ego boost.
I'm sure today if they would have filmed it, it would be completely different because we
Oh
have,
yeah,
speed motion, we can capture all that.
I was
But
like, go
look,
faster, dude. Go faster.
you could
I can't.
you could do it on your phone these days.
Yep.
You can do the ultra slow mo capture.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chaos, but I felt I wanted to say that because I found that to be so
No,
interesting.
no. I was finished, man. I was finished.
I did not know that at all.
Yep.
And that explained because some people were watching. It's like, why is he, he's not doing a bad job, but he's a master on this of martial arts. Why is he moving that way? And
If you notice, actually, in all the choreographies of fighting, the only one that looks like has a technique to it is him.
Mhm.
Nobody else. And you
Yep.
can see clearly the forms of the katas of karate on his movements.
So who wants to go next?
Well, I'm actually having a bit of a difficult time casting my mind back to when I first saw this. I can't, like, a lot of movies stick in my head, like when I first saw them. Like, was it the cinema? Was it home release? Was it television? This one, I don't have a recollection of when I first saw it. Which
the same feeling, dude. It's the same.
I'm surprised though, because it's quite an iconic movie in a lot of ways, and it's so quotable. It's almost as quotable as one of my second favorite movie of all time, which is Fifth Element. And the reason I love Fifth Element is because it's so quotable and so well written. And yeah, this movie is a bit of a schlocky action with sci-fi elements, but it's actually really well written. I realized in my rewatch that there's so many quotable sections. I mean, we sat there for 10 minutes this morning. Well, this morning for me, this evening for you guys, trying to work out which quote to use. And then in the end, we went with the most filthy one because that's what these guys are like. But and then they made me do the woman voice. But but yeah, I mean, there's so many great quotes. I mean, I put 3 of them up for a selection, and there were more. Like the last couple of lines of the movie are quotable as well. It's just There's so many great quotes, and that's a testament to the writers and the great work that they did on it. And knowing that it was being rewritten as it was filmed, you can't tell the way it holds together is really impressive. So I have a very vague recollection of first time seeing it, but I have a much greater appreciation of it now seeing it again just after its 30th anniversary.
Yeah. I feel exactly the same way you do, and I don't know why. Just like you, if I saw it in the theaters, if I saw it on home release, so I think knowing this, I think I'm going to speak to that home release instead of, because I can't remember. I don't know why, it's just a blur in my head. I can't really pinpoint, but things that I found interesting. I was in my 20s when I watched this film, 23, 24. There's a lot of things that I found really cool about this film when I watched it for the first time. First of all, first of the main list in this film is the car. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool!" And
You mean the police car?
Suicide doors.
not necessarily the police car, but the car technology in this film. Because you're able, the car can drive by themselves. And remember, this was the early 90s, right? And things like that. It was so like amazing to me that, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we had like a car? And the reason, and I'll give you a little background.
Now you have one.
Well, yeah. Backstory on that is Miami in the 90s, right? If you ever lived in a metropolitan city, you know how traffic is. So I remember I drive all the time, and then I look at this, it's like, wouldn't it be awesome if I can just let the car drive? I don't have to deal with traffic, and that's one of the things that I noticed. Another cool thing that I noticed is the communication. So you could call someone, could be in your house or even on your office or wherever it might be, and you could see their face. And that's something that I was like, wow, that I remember watching the Jetsons, how you pick up the phone
Ding,
and
ding, ding, ding.
see it on here. It's like it would be amazing to be able to have something like that. And on and on. The kind of things that happen in this film. I remember that was the most impactful thing for me about this film, is to be able to see in like another thing that I realized too when I was watching it for the first time, which it's kind of stupid in retrospect, but it's like they're talking about the 21st century, and it was just like, wow. In my mind in my youth, you don't really put math into perspective and don't realize that it's actually sooner than what you think. But to me at that time, when I was watching that, it was so far into the future. It was like magical. And come to think that we are in the 21st century right now.
I remember when 1999 was like, wow, I'm going to be like 31 when that shows up, and like, I'll be so old.
Blade Runner much?
Decades ago. Yeah. I just speaking to the thing about the cars. General Motors provided the production team with 18 concept vehicles, including the ultralight. More than 20 fiberglass replicas of the ultralight were produced to portray the civilian and SAPD patrol vehicles in the film. After filming had completed, the remaining ultralights were returned to Michigan as part of GM's concept vehicle fleet. So there you go. That's where the cars came from.
And I want to add to that now, since we're talking about the cars. And they, I don't know now, right? Talking about the Teslas as an example, because there's so many different electric cars out in the market right now. But I remember at a time where they were considering once the full self-driving is good, right? Because it's still in beta. They were considering to remove the steering wheel from the cars. Obviously, it's just a voluntary thing. But the reason, and again, I don't know, it's been a couple of years back, so I haven't heard anything yet. But the reason why they're claiming is because if you, for example, you went to a bar and you drank and you got in your car and you caused an accident, this is one way that they can tell if you were driving or was the car driving. So removing the wheel altogether removes the possibility that someone drunk can just bypass the system by picking up the wheel.
Mhm.
Now in this car, I kind of like the technology and how they do it, yet it kind of negates that whole thing. And I don't know the legality of it, so don't quote me on that. I'm not a lawyer in any aspect, but the way and the automatic system on this car on this film works is they don't remove the wheel. The wheel becomes unusable because it contracts.
Yep.
Even if you grab it, you can't move it. You can't. So when you turn off the automatic self-driving, then it becomes it expands. So you can actually grab the wheel and move it. And I'm just saying this in retrospect, but I kind of like that instead. I would feel very, very odd if all of a sudden I have no steering wheels on my car. I wouldn't like that at all.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I like the control. So I like
See,
that.
I thought that the steering wheel contracted so you had more space to have sex while you were traveling, but they just put things on their heads and beam stuff to each other, so you don't really need the space, do you? So
Yeah, you don't need the space. You
doesn't
should
really help.
stay quiet there, unmoving, and
Mm,
and before you know, you got to your destination.
Yep.
that's right.
Before they meet your meat.
He's hooked on that.
Captain
Hey,
Can eat his
talk,
meat.
talking about the future and futuristic buildings that were used in the film. The SAPD police station in the background was the GTE corporate headquarters in Westlake Village, California, which later became the Baxter Healthcare Building and was used in the first episode of The Orville.
Ooh.
So, cameos of actors, you've got cameos of buildings in different
Yep.
in different sci-fis. Because, of course, trying to produce a believable sci-fi-esque environment in the future, you need futuristic-looking buildings, and there's only so many of them. So they do get recycled in different shows.
Nice.
Awesome. I had something here. Okay, so you were briefly talking about how many things have changed in this future alternative. Among those things are the way they say hello or they shake hands.
Or don't, as the case may be.
Or don't, yeah. There's no touching whatsoever. So the way that you say hi is you kind of like do this, and you can't touch each other, right?
Which was a thing during COVID.
Yes. Which is kind of eerily scary if you think about it from a movie that was filmed in 1993. But no kissing and obviously no sexual intercourse.
The exchange of fluids is dangerous and therefore illegal.
So if it is, you can get a ticket, or those machines on the wall, which that's another question I have every day, including your apartment. So the sex on this film,
or lack thereof.
Just to explain, a little bit of how it happens. Is apparently you put in this headset on your head and you close your eyes, and I guess the two headsets connect and you have the experience with apparently the feelings, all while you're perfectly still sitting down and at a fair distance from each other. And this is because, like we said before, sex is illegal because of the exchange of bodily fluids.
Well, they also said that after AIDS, there was a whole bunch of other acronym diseases that were sexually transmitted.
ABT, CTP. I don't even. I'm just
Anthrax.
letters, but
Anthrax.
Meet my meat.
yeah, I think this movie broke our Captain Kid.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, watching this in retrospect, it's kind of interesting and slightly scary that today we have something that is close to that, not necessarily the same thing. And we were kind of discussing this in the pre-show, but apparently you could download a software on your computer and connect it to two pieces of hardware. One would be a virtual headset, and the other one would be a sex toy. Is that a word? I'm trying to pick a better word because there's so many different variations.
A battery-powered sex toy, a motorized sex toy.
Exactly. So they all connect to the computer software that you install, and once you open that program, you are in this kind of like resembles of like a World of Warcraft style. I don't know, where you meet other people, and if you match with others, you can go into a room, and you could have your intimate moment together. And it's eerily scary because, granted, this is not transfer of mental imagery or no type of the only transfer information is the transfer of motion between the two sex toys, but in combination with a virtual headset, you have the visual effect as well, which, if you think about it, it's very close to what they had in this film, and it's kind of scary. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I don't know.
There were quite a few good predictions in this movie, and we probably should save a few of them for the science behind science fiction, because this movie is chock full of examples, which will give us some good material for the final sequence.
And most likely, there are no predictions. They could be also cautionary tales, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
I mean, who wants to use 3 seashells? You could swear at the wall for a while and get some paper, and then you could.
Well, no one, I read articles, right, where they say they finally figure it out, right, after so many years, with 30 years now of the film. Because I remember when this film first came out, that was the first thing that everybody was questioning. It's like, how the heck would that work? And they kept it hush hush. Now, I read an article, I think it was a couple of years ago. It's fairly recent in comparison to when the film came out, on how that works. Apparently, and this is a quote from, not necessarily quote verbatim, but from Sandra Bullock, where she's making fun of I'm closing my eyes so I don't see Captain Chaos, but
With one square.
she says she's making fun of the reporter because she's saying, like, we don't know what this how the 3 seashells work. That's very simple, man. You call yourself intelligent. The first one is number 1, the second one is number 2, and the third one is for cleaning. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, but it still doesn't let me know how that works.
Right. She said you need to scoop to clean properly.
I mean, whatever. I'm gonna scoop it. I mean,
Yep.
I don't get it.
Yep.
I just don't get
From
it.
head
So,
to
what do you guys think? I mean, have you guys
I
researched on that? Or?
I think the whole point was that it was supposed to be a mystery, like the mystery of the future.
Even rhymes.
And-
Scoop the poop.
Yeah. And there was an article just recently, because it was the 30th anniversary of the movie, where they talked about how they came up with the idea, but they didn't actually say how it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm sticking to Sandra Bullock's explanation for now because it's the only sense that I can make of. It still doesn't make any, but it's better than what not knowing anything. So
There are certain things that are not meant to be known.
come on, I come from a very own Captain Chaos. Come on.
You know how when 2015 rolled around and they made the shoes that auto laced from the movie Back to the Future Part 2,
Yep.
I really think that they should put some thought into this and make the three seashells a thing. It may not catch on, but it may help the planet a bit with the amount of trees that we cut down for toilet paper every year.
So if you're listening to the show and you are in the business of creating things, there you go. You got an idea.
Let us know the patent for scoop the poop.
Speaking of future predictions that almost came true, Arnold Schwarzenegger, President of the United States.
Yeah.
It was talked about when he became the governor in California.
Oh, he's the governor, yeah.
And the Arnold Amendment did get proposed, but it didn't pass. It didn't pass into law. So
I guess that he got to the chopper.
That's right. He didn't make it to the chopper, but at least not Air Force One, the chopper. Yeah. I mean, look, they were predicting with his popularity in the 90s that he might one day become president, and he got to be governor of California, and California on its own as a state of the US has the 11th it did have the 11th largest gross domestic product of any country in the world. So it's up there. It was just outside of the top 10 with gross domestic product of any country in the world, and it's only one single state of the US. Yeah. So it was a pretty important. Like, if he could be the governor of any particular state in the US, it was the one to be the governor of. And I mean, I didn't. He was there from 2003 to 2011, so not a short period. And I don't know. I've never lived in the US, so I don't know exactly how his governorship was taken. As was it positive or negative or whatever? But I mean, this movie was saying that he became the president, and it wasn't far off.
Yep, true.
So prediction-wise, pretty damn close. I'd call that a tick.
Like Simpsons style.
Yeah.
But I was just reading here in the wiki that apparently Taco Bell was not the first company that was propositioned to be the winner of the restaurant wars. Macca's was asked, and then they said no. And there was another company as well, another chain restaurant that was asked about it, and they weren't interested either. So it came down to Taco Bell, which I think is more amusing. I mean, you said Macca's winning. Yeah, I could imagine that. Well, we call McDonald's Macca's in Australia. You call it Mickey D's or something like that. But I could see Macca's winning. But Taco Bell is so not a thing in Australia. I mean, there's 3 restaurants in the entirety of Sydney, and there's none up my way. So it's not a big thing.
It wasn't a big thing on the 9.
I like more in Rent a Girlfriend. I think it was. They call it Wacos.
Waco Bell.
Waco Bell.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's a McDonald M, but it's a W,
Yeah.
and it's Wacos.
um, I,
Mm.
I would have to say, the marketing on this film for that actually worked on most of the people that I know, right? Because we had, and this is the reason why I said that. Well, what I said at the beginning of the show is because uh, every time I watch this film, and I watched it many times, I really really enjoy this film. And every time I watch it, it's just as fun as the first time that I watched it. But I always get a craving for Taco Bell, and that is, at least to me and all the people that I know that we have talked about this, that marketing actually worked, because that's all marketing, right? So every time I watch this film, there's a very pleasurable experience for me to be able to watch this film while I eat tacos with beer. Um, how? So I'm going to post a question, and also to the listeners, if you're listening to this podcast. I want to hear what is your experience. Do you go through the same thing that I do, or this is something completely different
And
for
what
you?
do you get when you order?
And yes, please, please. What I do always get
A burning ring of fire.
every single, because
Now meat his meat.
Yep.
spicy is illegal, so I always get the soft taco supreme. I get two of those and a beer, and I am happy. It's like comfort food while I watch this film. So
Geo, Robert's a soft taco. You knew that, didn't you?
supreme.
Supreme. Oh,
And
there's the fan.
chaos is having chaos. So yeah,
Yep.
no,
We just saw one of his fans on the ceiling.
yeah, only fan. Okay.
No, only fans on the ceiling. Oh Jesus. Oh dear. Hey,
So,
by the way, Robert, you'll be pleased to know that your standards for misinformation are still going strong, because
thank you.
you got something wrong.
Thank you.
I just read out. You were saying that the Belknap Hardware and Manufacturing Company building in Louisville, Kentucky, was imploded for the movie. It wasn't. It was imploded for a promotion for the film. It wasn't the one. Yeah, the MTV competition was not for the movie, for the building blown up in the film. It was for a promotion for the film. So the one that the competition winner blew up was not the one that was used in the film.
I'll be darned. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Corrections.
Yes.
So it says here the city of LA allowed the filmmakers to use and demolish an old Department of Water and Power building in downtown Los Angeles.
Oh, kind of like in Tank Girl, right? Water and Power.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Oh, did you know? And this is something that I did not know, that Huxley was supposed to be Lori Perry. Now that we're talking about Tank Girl, and we're having issues accepting.
So you, where did you get that statement from?
Well, I'm reading, and I have so many tabs open. This is crazy. I kind of lose track.
I mean, I'm reading from Wikipedia. You know, the source of truth. So.
Yeah, social truth. Patty was started filming, and a few days later was let go for creative differences. So they actually recruited Sandra Bullock.
Oh, there you go.
So I was like, I did that. That would have been a complete different movie if you think about it.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Sandra Bullock did a great job of the ditzy police officer who was completely enamored by the 90s.
Yeah. But I just loved her. I wish there was more movies for Lori Perry. I really think she was really good. But yeah, it is what it is. So, I know what your answer is, Ray, because you don't have that many Taco Bells around you.
Nope.
Gio, what about you? Like, did the marketing for Taco Bell in this movie work for you? I mean, do you have?
Gave me a little bit of cravings, but I'm not crazy about Taco Bells.
Oh, okay, so that's the difference. That you just don't like Taco Bell, which is okay.
It's not that I dislike it. I'm just not crazy about it. Whenever I feel like it, I go and get a 5-layer burritos. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, I have a taco waiting for me. I did not finish. I was eating prior to, well, during the film, during watching.
Let's see if you can make it to the taco or to the toilet.
I think I'm cured by now.
Yeah, there was some other interesting things of note during the casting. Stallone passed on the project at first, but came back to it. And he wanted equal opponents between Spartan and Phoenix, and he wanted Jackie Chan as the role of Simon Phoenix. Now that would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Because like Snipes played a really good, intelligent bad guy, with quips and stuff that were almost better than what the main character, the hero, was coming out with. And I thought that made him way more interesting than a lot of other bad guys in movies that are so one-dimensional. He seemed to be enjoying himself and being intelligent about it.
Yep.
And I really like that with the way that they've written Simon Phoenix. But Stallone wanted Jackie Chan and he passed on it. And there was another actor.
I think that Dennis Rodman would have done good, Simon Phoenix. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and just to go into Jackie Chan before we move on real quick, I think the reason why he rejected it is because he didn't want to be typecast as a villain. Knowing that also his films,
he's happier as a good guy.
Well, and another thing too is the fact that in the early 90s, as a Chinese, which is part of minority, that actually took a little more weight, because he was thinking about the future, and he feel being typecast as a villain would put a negative connotation to his career. So that's why he said no.
So apparently Steven Seagal was attached to the movie as Spartan before Stallone took it on.
That would have been...
and Jean-Claude Van Damme was offered the part as the villain.
Jean-Claude Van Damme would have done a great villain, man.
Yeah. Those would be complete different movies. And I am not opposed to it. That it could be cool if they can make another Demolition Man. It will be an alternative universe.
Yep.
I'll buy into that, It still doesn't mess with the original, so.
No. I mean, it's always interesting to read about, what could have been with different actors and stuff like that before, you watch the movie and you go, it's a Stallone movie, and one of the rare Stallone sci-fis, which, it's still an action movie. It's his bread and butter, but it's got the sci-fi elements, and he leaned into it. He leaned into the man out of time role very well, I thought.
Yeah.
Especially when he was depressed about Schwarzenegger. He's like, oh, God, that guy. Because they always had that sort of antagonism rivalry going on. Yeah, rivalry. And, it was really obvious in, what was that series of movies that they were both in?
Expendables.
Expendables, yeah. So they were both in that. And it went on through that as well. It was one of those sort of baked in rivalries. And you can see it even in this movie here. So
notice they mentioned Rambo.
But Stallone did a lot of those rivalry things. Tango and Cash, if you remember.
Yes.
He had a rivalry with the other leading man in that one, which was one of my favorite actors whose name won't come to me. Oh, hell. Now I'm going to have to Google save me.
The Russell.
Kurt Russell, yes.
Huh?
Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's done some great movies and,
Oh, yeah.
and sci-fi's too, like Soldier.
I
Oh,
love Soldier, man.
love Soldier.
Todd.
Yeah.
Have we done Soldier yet? I don't think we have.
No, I have it on the list. I put it
It's on the
actually.
list.
That's one of my
Move-
favorite movies from him.
But- Move it up. I want to see it again.
Okay, I'll have to do that soon.
Oh,
But yeah, rivalries between big action stars are great. So if you can have a whole movie based on it, you're just basically printing money. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what you guys found funny, like in the instructions of the police when they were seeing like the little videos, everything was instructed with stickmans were the visual instructions for everything.
Well, it kind of makes sense if you think about it. It's hilarious, but it makes sense if
Like,
you
see
have.
a little stickman, like put it on the ground, and I was like, "What?"
it didn't work. Take a step towards him and say it again with "or else"
Or
amended to the end.
I think I used to tell my brothers that whenever I wanted to do something.
Or else.
Else.
Or
But-
else is an empty threat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense because in this society, they went away from violent crimes. At least in the part of the society that they are in, because even the how you call it, the scrums, forgot their names now.
Scraps.
The scraps, yeah, the ones that live underneath. Even the violence that they do wasn't really technically violence. They're just
Bullies.
stealing food from Taco Bell. And if you notice in the one scene that we get to see in this film, which is implied that they've been doing this for years, no one got hurt. All they, except for the ones that Spartan kicked. But the whole idea is, in and out. They loot the van, take all the food, and leave, and not, hurt anybody in the process.
Yep.
So
They were trying to hurt Spartan, but they didn't achieve their goal even a little bit.
and it was kind of sad because even when he grabbed one of the guys, you can tell they weren't really bad guys when he said, like, dude, but we're, and then he looked down and he noticed that all they're doing is stealing food. And that became sad right there. I mean, if they're stealing food, that means they're hungry. That means that they don't normally have a way to sustain themselves,
Mhm.
because otherwise they wouldn't be stealing food.
And it shows you one of the sad realities of every utopia, the polarization of society. It always happens,
Yeah, there's so many examples. I mean, we see it first on the book that you and me love, the time travel,
Oh,
the
yeah.
time machine. There you go.
H.G. Wells,
Exactly. When they
the
go
rap people.
exactly far into the future, there was this complete separation between what used to be the wealthy and what used to be the poor. And this is kind of like we see here, people they like to comply. It's slightly different, obviously, in this film because it's the people at the top are people that comply to Dr. Kato's rules.
Mhm.
And people on the bottom are the ones that refuse to follow that rule or follow that lead. And there was a separation on society because of that. What do you think about that, Ray? I mean, we see this in many. It's kind of like almost a repeat in many of the sci-fi utopia films or
Yeah.
utopia
Oh, yeah.
stories. What is your thought on that? Because I was like, you know what, it's a different take because usually is the division between the rich and the poor.
Yeah. Well, the stratification of society is something that's always happened, and I don't think that we're ever going to reach a point where everybody's got a fair shake of this, or fair suck of the sav, as they say down here in Australia. it's just a case of, some people are better at hoarding money than others, and some people just aren't that interested in it, and therefore don't get the same sort of opportunities that other people do. I mean, some people aren't very good at socializing, so they can't make good connections, and they don't get those opportunities that the people who can and do get. And it's just a fact of life that, there'll be the haves and the have-nots, unfortunately. There are some countries in the world that are trying to work with an instituted minimal living wage, whether you're working or not, so that, everybody has what they need, and it's not necessarily what they want, but what they need. And I think it has upsides and downsides. Like the upsides is obviously, you're not going to have people pushing shopping trolleys full of junk around the streets because they, don't have anywhere to live and don't have the money to, live a reasonable life. But there's also the removal of motivation, because, your own country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, is based on capitalism, which is, if you work hard for it, you will make something of yourself and you will get more of what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's the motivation to do something and live a life. Now, if that motivation is taken away, if you don't have to do anything to have a minimal base wage, a lot of people will just not bother because they're not motivated. So, there's upsides and downsides to looking after everybody. And, I'm an advocate of free healthcare, because knowing what I know, I mean, I don't live in the US, but knowing what I know of what happens to people in the US who get sick and end up with huge amounts of debt, it's destroys your life. You might get your health back to a certain degree, but your life is destroyed financially, which puts you in as big a hole as being sick does. So you're exchanging one hole for another, and that doesn't help in the end society to function. So I'm always an advocate of countries that look after their people's health, like Australia, Canada, the UK, the countries that have instituted minimal level of healthcare that you don't have to pay for out of pocket. It's covered by taxes. So I mean,
that's it. I'm moving to Australia.
Well, you don't have to go that far. You could just move to Canada. Just go jump the border up north and get free healthcare. But I mean,
I have you in Australia.
but then you've got to deal with all the poisonous snakes and spiders and octopus and
I'll do it for free healthcare. I'll do
it. He wants to be a Florida man in Australia.
Well, that's easy. You just swap
I'll be
alligators for crocodiles, and you're good.
I'll be a new species of Aussie.
We have plenty of mosquitoes. You don't have to worry about missing out on them. But yeah, we'll take it, Gio. It's all good. But yeah, dystopia is just one of those things that's really hard to avoid, I think, for a lot of reasons, partly human nature.
Yeah. I just found it interesting. This is a different take on that utopia concept, where it's based on your personal what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not necessarily, you are rich, so you live on top, and you're poor, so you live on the bottom. This is a matter of personal opinion. That might be the bad word of it, where someone said, okay, we're willing to give up X or Y so we can live away. So we are going to live at the top. And then the other one said, no, I'm not going to give up X or Y. So I'm going to live at the bottom. I'm going to have my.
It feels more like if you're compliant, you get to reap the benefits of it.
Exactly.
That's what it feels more. So it gives you a view of totalitarianism in this utopia, where if you fit into the schematics of society, you follow the rules, you get those benefits, but you had to follow those rules. If not, you get disjointed for society.
And you don't get freedom, and you don't get booze, and you don't get sex, and
You cannot even
what's the
curse,
point of
bro.
I bet you don't even get bacon.
You cannot even curse.
Bacon
Yeah.
is
I wouldn't last there. I'd be perpetually poor from that damn machine on the wall.
Yeah.
I will tell you straight up. I am, Admiral Happy Ending here, and I would live at the bottom. There's way too many things that you had to give up to be able to. It's just too much to pay. Too high of a price to pay.
well,
Bugger.
I mean, I don't want to jump into the technology too close because we're going to use that for science beyond science fiction. But if you everything's swipeable and you've got a tag implanted inside your hand and you're constantly monitored by cameras and listening devices, you have no freedom.
Yeah.
You have no privacy, and you can't even swear anywhere without being fined for it. So it's like, where's the fun in life? There's no fun left.
There wouldn't be any science fiction remnant, that's for sure.
Nope. We'd be stuffed.
Would be frozen.
Well, I have an idea. If you have the sensor in your hand, you just gotta go and beat your meat, and then you disrupt the sensor.
Wow.
Captain Chaos, you have been fined 1 credit for breach of the... I wanted to bring up some parallels. You were mentioning before the whole, representation of dystopias in science fiction. And I was thinking when you were talking about that, how the dystopia of Demolition Man is quite similar to Minority Report, in that on the surface, everything looks squeaky clean and pleasant and so forth and so on. But your freedoms are completely inhibited. Like, spider bots can show up in your house anytime and scan your eyes, and you're always being scanned. Everybody knows where you are at any time. You're having focused advertisements thrown in your face 24/7. I mean, I'd hate that.
I think that's worse, because at least in Demolition Man, you're being recorded even in your own house. But you don't have invasive robots coming in and like, you gotta go down and
but in Minority Report you could have a beer and a screw and it was okay.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, this now that you put it that way, it's kind of hard to choose.
Column A, column B.
Which one? Captain Chaos.
Well, the good news seemed to be, at least, that at the end of Demolition Man, the situation had changed enough that things could, mellow out a bit. Brewing could begin again, hopefully. Yeah. And, people could exchange fluids without, being arrested for it.
And they can curse too. But that causes its own little problem, because what would you do to go to the bathroom then?
Oh, they probably wouldn't get rid of the seashells. I mean, they haven't got a toilet paper industry anymore, so that'd be very hard to reinstitute.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So which place would you choose to live, Chaos? The Minority Report of Demolition Man?
I think the Minority Report, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he can get a beer and a fuck, so that tips the scales, I think, in Minority Report's favor.
And there's bacon.
And there's bacon, yeah.
You can't live without bacon.
Nope.
If they said if you don't eat bacon for your entire life, you'll live an extra 10 years. An extra 10 years without bacon, what's the point? I'll just
exactly. Oh, nice. Okay, so I think we might be, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I think we might be at that point where we asked the last question.
Final thoughts?
Exactly. So what is your final thoughts? So what's the last impression on this film? And this would be a collection of every single time that you watch this film. From the beginning.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think that this movie is a classic of sci-fi, and I think that it's one of those milestones of sci-fi. Like if you like sci-fi, you probably watch this movie. You don't necessarily have to be a fan of sci-fi to enjoy this movie. It's
Mhm.
not that deep cut into hard science. And I think that it's done with a very good touch of humor too. So I would definitely suggest it, and it's one of those classics that you always go back uh, to enjoy just a classic movie, just because you know.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to go next, Ray?
Yeah,
Or
I can go next. So there's a lot of good points and bad points to this movie, which is maybe why it wasn't, one of those things that stuck in my head um, back when I originally saw it. I can appreciate it more now, more because I look at science fiction through a science fiction remnant lens, which makes me look at it a bit harder, and I spot more things than I would have done originally. Sort of watching it out of the corner of my eye when it was on TV or something like that. But yeah, this is a sort of cheesy action movie. Well, it's on the surface a cheesy action movie with a couple of big stars from the 90s. But if you drill down just a little bit into the sunken layer of Los Angeles, you find that they predicted a whole lot of stuff which is coming to bear, and hopefully some of it won't, because it wasn't particularly desirable, at least from our perspective. And it has a lot of merit, which we will go into in the science behind science fiction very shortly. But sort of my closing statement about this movie is that it's well written. There's lots to enjoy. I highly recommend, if you haven't watched it, that you do. You'll hopefully get a lot out of it, like I have. And if you ever work out how those three seashells work, please tell me. I want to know.
yes. um, join our Discord and let's talk about it. I'm very, very interested. Okay.
What about your final words, Robert? You haven't had to go yet.
Yeah, this film it's the best way that I can describe this film somehow, it's home. It's there's nothing better for me than just like I said earlier, sitting down to watch this film, eating Taco Bell and drinking it. Not sure if this is you know a good marketing on the film, where you're not you're conditioned for Taco Bell, or maybe this is something that I watched early on and I just have nostalgic feelings to it. Whatever that might be, it works for me. And it just makes me happy. The combination of the science, the sci-fi topics in this film with the action elements, uh, together with the comedic of this film, just make it a total fun watch, at least for me. And just like Captain Chaos says, if you are a sci-fi fan, you probably have seen this film, but it is not necessarily uh, a requirement for you to love sci-fi to enjoy this film. And it's the testament to that. It's the testament of how all these elements, they mash together in a way that it creates this classic that can't be replicated. Um, so my last, I mean, every time I see this film, um, it, it, it I always forget how much fun it is until I watch it. And is that this is the kind of film. It's not the type of film that I put on the TV and like semi watch while I do other things. This is one of those films that I really enjoy sitting down to it and just enjoying while I eat and drink a beer. So those are actually my final thoughts. And like I said earlier, I am very, very curious for you out there listening, if this is what you do, if this is your thing too. or you're like Captain Chaos that doesn't really care for Taco Bell, so it's not a thing. And it doesn't have to be Taco Bell. I mean, do you feel like, which is another thing I'm curious about, if you got to see the version of this film where it was Pizza Hut instead of Taco Bell, but mainly, what if it's something? If this is the type of film that you like to sit down, well, you know, eating fried chicken and a beer, whatever that might be, let us know what that is. I'm kind of curious, but it is home to me, and it's wholesome and it's nostalgic. So that is
It's only wholesome because you get fined if you swear.
nice. Okay,
All
so
right. So I think that we're in this part of the show where we move to our last segment then on the science in sci-fi, right?
Science and sci-fi.
There he is. He's a bit late, but better late than never. Who wants to go first? I mean, this movie is chockers with predictions, some of which are quite accurate, which I'm very impressed by.
Scarily.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
I only got one thing, and
Really?
and yeah, because just like I said, this film is home for me. It's like my brain shuts off. I got cryogenics on the list here. However, I kind of like to hear your thoughts on it, or maybe I don't know if you want me to go and then we can just
Yeah, you go first.
talk about the same. So
Say your piece.
cryogenics. This is basically the central point of this film. Is that one system that makes this movie possible? This is how they're able to freeze these two individuals for over 30 years and to be able to reanimate them back. This is a technology that is in current research right now. The cryogenics. I believe there's a couple of companies out there that are trying to reap on the benefits on the fact that the issue with cryogenics is not the actual freezing of it, and I think that is horrible for these companies to take advantage of that. In a way, I understand where they're coming from, and just so you understand, cryogenics is actually the technology where you can freeze a human and keep it in suspended in that freezing state until time in the future comes where you can reanimate or defreeze that person and you know, in theory bring them back to life. So the issue with cryogenics right now is not the actual first part of freezing, but is the defreezing portion, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, because the the uh, the human body crystallizes, and as soon as it crystallizes, that's it. It's done. You're dead. So this is the reason why I said those companies, in a way, I understand where they're coming from. They're saying that, and I've seen many movies that actually follow on this concept, where they're freezing you and they're keeping you in a frozen state until the time comes, until the technology comes along where they can, number one, unfreeze you, number two, cure you or whatever disease you might have, going with you. There's other companies um, uh, that that they're I don't know. I have an issue with it because I don't think that you should go fully into something not having an exit strategy, and that's what it feels like to me. Like it is, they're dependent on or basically trusting that humanity is going to come to a point where that issue is going to get resolved, which in theory is definitely a possibility because as a human, the human race has come a long way in the inventions and the technologies that we have come up with. But still, even at that, it's a human life, and I have a problem where yeah, we'll freeze you and let someone else figure it out. Is where I have a problem with. So
Yeah, I mean, it's always sort of when your life's been cut short and you know about it and you have the money to do something, you want to do something, and whether or not these companies are the timeline of you being revived in the future when technology improves is viable or not. I mean, Walt Disney's head is still frozen, cryogenically frozen, and that's great. He could end up in a Futurama-esque bottle talking away, maybe. But the big problem is that when you freeze cells under uncontrolled conditions, which they would have been in Walt Disney's time, you get the formation of ice crystals. Now, ice crystals forming within cells break the membranes that hold those cells together. Kind of like when you freeze meat, chuck it in the freezer and then you pull it out again, some meat just goes to pieces. It just sort of turns to slop. And that's because the cell membranes have been broken and it's no longer holding together like it did when it was alive. So basically, a cell only functions because it is separated from other cells and its environment. And if you break those membranes, the cell is no longer functional as a cell. And of course, if you defrost somebody who's had those ice crystals form within the cells, then they will be mush when they come out. And I guess these people who are being frozen are hoping that technology will come to a point where they can reverse that damage. Now, it's very unlikely on a cellular level that you can recover cells that have been ruptured. But I mean, if nanites become a thing and you've got millions of tiny robots that can do micro repairs to individual cells, maybe it will become a thing, but it will be stupidly expensive. So
I think that there's also the reason that amphibians are being studied because they're able to go through that process without losing that molecular structural.
yeah.
Uh,
They have a biological form of antifreeze, so they can actually be frozen and then thawed and be functional again. But you need to have that within your cell before you're frozen so that your cell doesn't rupture. Once your cell ruptures, it's kind of all over Red Rover.
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if human beings could be genetically manipulated to produce that type of natural antifreeze, it may be that we could be cryogenically frozen, but currently we can't. So,
No, will we be humans at that point?
well, if we can still produce offspring with normal humans, then yes. If we can't, then we'll be a separate species. That's how species definition works. Although there's some fuzzy gray areas. They've got to be viable offspring. You get ligers, which are lions and tigers mating, and they produce an offspring, but that offspring is infertile. So if they can't continue, then they're different species.
And if they can't procreate, then they'll die soon after.
Well, it's the end of the line, literally and figuratively.
So that's the one thing that I had. I mean, like you said, this film is filled with them. You have this full self-driving technology that is in, and I like to say in full research right now. They say beta, right? But I strongly feel it's still alpha testing. There's way too many variables that they have to come up with.
See, if everybody's car was self-driven, like the car drove itself, it wouldn't be a problem. The problem comes with a self-driving car reacting to an idiot, and there's plenty of them. So, if everybody, like if to go on the freeway, you had to activate automatic driving, the car to drive itself, then it would work. But idiots drive on the freeway all the time over the speed limit. erratically, cause accidents, and a self-driving car would have a lot of trouble dealing with erratic drivers. But if you could force the car to go into self-drive mode when it entered the freeway, then it would work.
And this is what we see in movies like the
iRobot.
iRobot. We're talking about this one with Tom Cruise, Minority Report,
Yeah.
and also the TV show Upload,
And Total Recall too.
where you get in the car, even park at your own home, it's automatically in full self-driving mode. So even on your neighborhood, cars are driving in full self-driving. So yeah, I agree with you. If that is the case, that technology would be awesome, would be perfect.
And people say, but what if it breaks down? Yeah, well, cars break down anyway, like when you drive them yourselves anyway. So
Exactly.
same sort of deal. But, people giving away their control, they don't like to do that. It's a human thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad by saying this, but that's the first thing that the feeling that I got when, and again, they're not talking about this, so I'm sure they're not going to go with this anymore. This was like years ago when they said they're going to remove the steering wheel. I'm like, nope, not to my car. Because I like to have the control. I like to
Not under my watch.
It's not a car anymore. It's a transit pod.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You don't have control over it.
Yeah.
True.
So yeah, those are the points. I mean, there's other points there, but those are the points that kind of like I felt to bring up to the plate here for the show, because I imagined that we would come up with more. I didn't want to like fill the show with, because we could be honestly we could be talking an hour.
Oh yeah, we could go longer on the science beyond science fiction and this IP than the actual movie.
Exactly. Do you have anything that calls your attention, Chaos, on the science?
Not really. I mean, what you were guys talking about the cryogenics, I've seen that there's also studies that don't necessarily freeze the person to a crystallized state, but keep them under zero temperature. So you are in a sub-zero temperature, but your body's not hardened under the water. I don't know if you guys noticed in the movie, but whatever they put into the pot is not really water. It looks like a jelly kind of substance, which will make sense. That will make possible the defreeze state, because one of the things amphibians, for example, that allows them to come from solid state back into normal is that the cellulose that compose their body is kind of like mucose kind of thing, which has a better trajectory from solid state back into natural. Different like anything liquid that you completely freeze.
Yeah, aside
It
from
gives more elasticity to it.
aside from the body's behavior, that liquid would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps that they have a hibernation system, much like a lot of animals, like bears and other animals that burrow and hibernate. So they slow their body down. The heartbeat drops to a couple of beats a minute, and everything just slows right down. So there's not the need for a whole lot of fuel,
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of food and water, so that they can outlast the times when food is not available, when everything's covered in snow and you can't get what you need. And that's the whole point of hibernation, is to outlast those lean times. But human beings don't have a hibernation system. Like we're not evolved for that. So
That's true. And I mean about self-driving vehicles, that's the challenge, and I think that that's gonna be the thing that's gonna keep us really moving forward on it right now. It's that control. The equation tells the absolute thing that yes, as long as everybody complies with it, and you don't have somebody driving a car, the level of or number of accidents gonna be reduced to zero. The problem is having everybody on board with it.
Yeah.
until somebody hacks the system and makes the cars all run into
That's the
each
other
other
fear.
like bumper cars.
Yep.
because you gave up control and somebody else took it over, which is always the fear. So from my perspective, there's a ton of different technologies here that they predicted, and they shot pretty close to the mark on a lot of them. The biochip in the hand, which is used for payments, they are actually working on that in Europe at the moment, in various countries, with, testing small populations to see how well that works. But I mean, you can do the same thing with some Google watches and things like that. You've got payment systems where you just swipe your watch and it pays for things. And of course, all of that is tracked. The heavy duty tracking in this movie, cameras, GPS and all that sort of thing. Your location is known whenever your phone is on and connected to a mobile network. If somebody really wanted to find out where you were and they knew your mobile, the code for your mobile phone, and you were carrying it on you, they could find you if they had access to the system. That's just how it works. The telecos aren't particularly interested in who you are and where you are, but if somebody was interested, they could find you. If you're a fugitive, turn your phone off.
and I don't think most phones have like when you turn it off, you're technically not turning it off, because
even in airplane mode you can be found.
The anti-theft system needs to find that phone. So when you turn it off, especially from the iPhone, when you press that red button to move and it shuts off, even at that is turned on because of the anti-theft system on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the battery out. Well, actually, most phones these days you can't. So, but yeah, heavy duty video surveillance. They're doing that in London, in the center of London these days.
China
with facial recognition.
China too.
Oh,
Social score.
China's doing it. These things are happening. These things that they predicted in this movie are happening. And the one that I really wanted to focus down on, because I found it actually quite interesting and useful. We've talked about these technologies that are invading your privacy, but this one's actually quite useful. So we go to here, and this is a shot from the movie. If you're following us on YouTube and watching the video of this episode, you can see this picture. But if you watch the movie, it's the scene in the boardroom where Dr. Cocktail is talking to a whole bunch of heads on screens, which are in little units, which swivel to face him while he goes for a wander while he's on his diatribe. So it's a form of virtual presence. They call it virtual presence, because you're not in the same room, but you're given a physical form which your face inhabits to make it feel like you're in the room. And this is something that has been worked on. Now, I have a definition, which of course I can't look at because everything's in the one screen. Let me just pull it over here. So telepresence robots is what they're called. And it enables you to be with others from the safety of your own home. Safety from COVID, back when COVID was a thing that was scaring the hell out of everybody. But basically, if you've maintained that remote worker lifestyle and you're not in the office as often, these telepresence robots give you an opportunity to have the people who are present make it feel like you are there. So using a telepresence robot or remote presence robot, you can communicate with others instantly and interact with your medical staff, business, or family in a more engaging fashion than a typical phone or video call. Be there anytime, it says. So you can see in this picture that all the people there are not present, but they're using telepresence to represent themselves. And here's an article from ZDNet Innovation, the 5 best telepresence robots supercharge your remote work. So we've got the Omni robot by Omni Labs, which looks like that there. We have the Double 3 by Double Robotics, which is a little bit more. It kind of looks like a what were those things called? used to stand on them and sort of ride them around. They were big in the noughties.
Yeah, I know what you call it, and escape
Yeah,
my mind.
the word won't come to me.
Basically what it is just to explain to the people that are listening to us. Basically, there's what an iPad with your face at the top, being pulled by a I want to call it a stick, but it's a metal rod that is attached to some wheels and actually moves around, showing your face in the front of it. Obviously, if you're watching our YouTube, you could see the images that we're showing.
And the next one is Ava by Ava Robotics, and this one is a bit chunkier. It's still got the screen with the face on it up the top where your head would normally be, but it's got quite a thicker body with a larger base. So obviously they've gone for stability with that one, less likely to fall over. And then you've got the ones that don't sort of try to replicate your physical form. You've got the Meeting Owl Pro 360 by Owl Labs, which is more like an avatar than an actual representation of you. And then you've got the QB Classic by QB, which is basically a stand for your iPad or other tablet, which can actually move, so it can sort of look up and down and stuff. You can control it from your remote location, but it's more just like FaceTime Plus, you might say. So yeah, I'd seen some. Oops, that's not the right one. That's the right one. Yeah, I'd seen some talk about telepresence robots on some informational shows previously, and I thought that was a really interesting idea, especially if you're, someone mid or upper management that needs to go out to visit clients or be in other cities or other countries. You can still, through the internet, be at meetings, as it were, seeing the other people around you and sort of moving around with them to do various things. So this device actually has a charge point, and then you can sort of remote control it around the place. It has waypoints that it can move to help it, maneuver through the corridor, rather than, having the old computer game robot situation of they're banging up against a wall because, it's not being controlled correctly. But yeah, this is, for $4,500 US, you can have one of these suckers and telepresence into work. So, if it's something that might be useful to you, it is available. And it is a very similar device, although it can move around. The ones in the movie could only pan from what would have been a seating position at the table. But you can see where those two technologies have sort of dovetailed in their functionality. It's just the other one's a little bit more functional in that it can move around. But yeah, I mean, this movie had a whole bunch of technologies. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if instant hardening foam for replacing airbags might become a thing. That wouldn't surprise me particularly much. They have been working on ways to use electricity to eradicate paint that's been sprayed onto buildings. I can't think of the term now. When it come to me, graffiti. So removing graffiti by using electricity, that has been looked into. I don't think that they've been particularly successful with it yet, but they have been trying that sort of a thing. So yeah, I mean, they had a really long, hard think about what the future might look like. They had the difficulty of not having flat panel displays and LCDs at the time. So all of these devices had thickness to them because they had to squeeze CRTs in 92 when they were building the props for this movie. But they gave it a really good shot. And I mean, they even had tablets in the movie, which of course, it's not the first first IP that's had tablets in it. That was 2001: A Space Odyssey. But yeah, they got on that bandwagon and said that tablets will be a thing in 2032, and certainly they were even in the noughties. So yeah, they predicted that one as well. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things, and I could go on with if I wanted to drill down and hit every single one of them. It would have taken me about 6 hours to research them all, but I thought this one really stood out to me as a positive and interesting technology that they predicted, which is now a thing that you can buy.
Awesome. Yeah, it is so cool. And like I said at the beginning of the show, the first time that I watched this film, it was just full. Oh, it wouldn't be nice if this would have been. And now, most of the stuff.
But I got to have my bacon, so they're not allowed to take that.
Yeah.
Bacon. That leads me to a thing. I think I want to get some bacon and put it on my taco.
Not a bad idea.
Bacon taco.
For me, so, yeah.
Well, everybody, I think it's been a good episode today. I want to remember everybody to go and check our website so you can follow us in your preferred platforms, and that way you can join us in Discord too if you like to. We're always chatting there and having a lot of fun. If you want to become a patron too, where you can see only Geos.
We got to earlier.
That way you can support the podcast, and also you can do like Robert says, you don't have to do a lot. You can just buy me a coffee,
Or you could match his meat.
Yeah, you can match my meat. Oh, what is it? Kiss my what?
No, don't do that.
Kiss my
Don't go
ass.
there. Don't go there.
No. And well, thank you for this episode, man, and everybody. And we hope that you enjoy it, and we'll see you on next episode.
Bye.
Till next time.
Bye.